right, thank you so much everyone for being here. So this is our Brunch with the Police event, and it's our second annual. And my name is Jenny Chang. I'm the Executive Director of Monster Education Foundation. And we are just so grateful, especially to our police officers, for not only taking the time to have a conversation with us, but for your continual service and sacrifice as you protect our great city. Of course, this event would be so much better if we could be doing this live and in person like last year. But we thank God for technology and the fact that even through a pandemic, we can still continue to build a community through platforms like Zoom. So let me just quickly introduce our organization and then some of our board members who are here. Monster Education Foundation was started about 7 years ago with the vision to select and support the best young leaders in some of the most under-resourced communities in Chicago and work with them, empower them, and motivate them to be leaders in the community as they pursue college and their careers. So each of our scholars have a college savings account with MEF, and it grows for each of them as they do well in school. We incentivize them, and as they participate in our programming. And then also, actually most importantly, as they lead individual service projects, we put more money into their college savings account. So this brunch with the police is MEF's commitment to do our part in creating a community of trust, mutual respect, and open communication with our police officers, and thank them for their service. So this past Thursday, Cordell and I were able to drop off some snacks and goodies at each of the precincts, and I hope some of you were able to have some of the snacks and enjoy that. Our prayer is that God will use this event and just help us all unite around the shared goal of curbing violence and building a peaceful community in Chicago. So, and with that, I just wanted to, first of all, introduce our board members from MEF, and then I'll introduce our scholars who will be on the panel. But I think, I'll also mention the names of the other scholars who are here to give their support and to be a part of this. But let me just peruse real quick. We have, so we'll start with, so Jerry Riles. If you can wave when I say your name, that'd be great. So Jerry Riles, he is the executive producer of the Rewind Sports 60 show. And he's also a distinguished board member, and he will also be our host today and leading the discussion. Then I see China Norwood is a board member. Thank you for joining us. And Rochelle Himalaya is a board member. And Michael Chang is a board member, and he's in this house. He's my husband. Who else is here? Okay, I think that's, oh, and Christine Toy. She is our business manager for Monster Education Foundation as well. Thank you for everyone. If I could, I'll just introduce some scholars I see here. So Vincentia, can you say hi? Just wave for us. Vincentia, okay, hi, there you are. Okay, and Jalea, all right, and I think I saw Michaela. Michaela, just turn your camera on real quick to say hi. And Tishana, can you just show yourself real quick? Yeah.
I'm on my tablet. My camera doesn't work, but hi.
Oh, okay. All right. I can hear your voice. Diamond is here to wait for us. And Jayla Kirkwood, thank you for being here. And then I'm going to introduce our panelists, our scholar panels. And actually, if you are not on the panel, you can go ahead and turn off your video now, so we could just have our panelists have their cameras shown. I asked our 4 scholars who are on the panel to share just one thing that they would like everyone to know about them. So Kamaya Robinson. Okay, Kamaya told me that she wants everyone to know her dream is to be an FBI agent. All right, and Shalom Ajigini, okay, she's on our panel, and she wanted me to tell everyone that, she has, and we all could see that she has a courageous smile, and she is very passionate about people just really having confidence in themselves. Cordell, can you wait for us? Cordell said he wants people to know that he is passionate about socioeconomic issues, and he can go on and on and on and rant about it for hours if we let him, because he is passionate about it. And then Micah Wilson. Okay, there he is. He wants everyone to know that he is a very loyal person and he will stick up for any of his friends with everything. And just, I forgot to mention, so Shalom is a junior, 11th grader. Micah is an 8th grader, right? Right, 8th grader. Kamaya is a 7th grader. And Cordell is a sophomore, a 10th grader. And then I'm going to invite Sergeant Walton. If you could go ahead and introduce the officers who will be on the panel, that would be great.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to introduce them by district, starting with the 1st district. We have Officer Nicole Bison, is it Bryson? And she is definitely a great person, and she is very active in, in community policing in the 1st district. We also have her partner in crime. Literally, we have Officer Dakari Jackson. So he is actually, he's with us in the 2nd district. So he's from the 1st district. And he is the youth officer along with Nicole. From the 2nd district, we have our field officer, Officer Deanne Baskerville. She works the street. She's definitely a hard worker, and but she's very kind when she interacts with people. And her partner today is Officer Rodriguez from the 2nd district. He is our youth officer. And so we thank Mark. Thank you, Mark. And then now we have our officers from the 3rd district. We have Officer Ebony. Ebony, what's your last name?
Braithwaite.
Breakaway. So we have, and she's I believe the backup youth officer for the 3rd district. And then we have, oh man, this is like the food man, guys. So we have Officer Delbert, and he's from the 3rd district. And I remember doing cooking with cops with him when he was in 3. So Officer Delbert. Those are the officers that we have on the call. And also joining us is Commander Wallace. So I'm actually going to ask if he want to just say hi.
Good morning, everybody. We had a really good time last year. I'm looking forward to a great panel this year as well.
Thank you. And we also have Officer Elise Buford. Elise? Okay,
Yes.
well, okay, I just wanted you to say hi. I know you're not on the panel, but I wanted you to say hi. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge all the officers that is on the call. So you want to just say something, say hi, whatever?
Yes, this is Officer Elise Buford. I'm not in uniform, so that's why I didn't have my video on. So, yep, Officer Elise Buford. I'm not working today, but I wanted to be present and support. And any support I can give, I'm more than welcome. I'm in the Office of Community Policing, and I'm one of the youth liaison officers as well. So, hi, everyone.
Hi, Elise. Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, so I think that's all our officers, but we also have one of our another individual from our office, and she is very important to us, Akia Chanel. You want to say hi? Okay, I heard her but didn't hear her, so she said hello, everyone. So again, Jenny, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, I'm gonna actually just go ahead and turn it over to Jerry and he will take over.
All right, hey, thank you so very much. Jenny, always great to see you. And it's great that we have the second opportunity, the second annual brunch with the Chicago police officers. It's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be able to host this event. And unfortunately, obviously, due to the pandemic, we aren't able to meet, but virtually is just as good as we move forward. But thank you, Jenny. Thank the scholars and of course the board members, and thank the Chicago police officers for taking time out to do this. Sergeant Walton, thank you so very much for coordinating this with Jenny Chang. So just to let everyone know, we're going to go through a series of questions here, similar to how we did it last year. for the first brunch. And I like the police to, answer the questions as well as the scholars. And I will pretty much designate, who the question is directed towards. So for instance, Officer Delbert Howell, I'll address you first after reading the question to get your input. And we'll try to go through with the police officers first and then the scholars afterwards, or vice versa. But I'd like to get everyone's response to the questions that we're going to be posing. And, be open, be comfortable, and be as honest as you possibly can in addressing how you, feel fit regarding the particular questions. So first off, I'd like to ask our first question, and it'll be addressed to the police officers. And the first one is, how did you decide to become a police officer? And the scholars, just to think about it, have you considered becoming a police officer? So first, let's start with Officer Delbert Howell. Why did you decide to become a police officer?
Good morning, everybody. I decided to become a Chicago police officer. Before becoming a police officer, I worked in Chicago Public Schools. I worked for a grant-funded program through the Department of Justice for 8 years. And I just got tired of being in a position where every year I had to renew my job, which is pretty stressful. And my dad was a Chicago police officer. So we talked about it, and I just decided to make it. And I was grateful enough to be able to still continue to work with the youth. That's how I became a Chicago.
Okay, thank you so much. Officer Ebony Braithwaite, can you address that for us?
Yeah, good morning, everyone, again. Officer Ebony Braithwaite from 3rd District. So actually, my story is actually kind of interesting. I actually had no desires, no dreams of actually becoming a police officer. I actually went to school for sports management. So I actually got my bachelor's and my master's in sports management. And so when I graduated, I went to school down in Memphis. And when I graduated, I moved back here to Chicago. And was doing social service work for about 6 years. And so I was working with Chicago Housing Authority residents out in Igel Gardens for a few years doing social services work out that way. And so my brother, this was during the time in 2013 when Chicago Police Department was doing like the massive hire when they were like giving the written exam. And so my brother actually talked me, he said, you should go ahead and take the test. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be bothered. And so I actually took the test, not really, thinking much about it. I ended up passing the exam, and then, I started going further along in the process. And then it started clicking like, okay, well, maybe, this will be an okay career. So long story short, my brother actually talked me into coming on the job, taking the test to become a police officer. And honestly, I can say this was probably one of the best decisions I've made. I know we've been, under a lot of stressful situations lately, but just having the opportunity to go out there and help people has been worthwhile. So that's my story.
No, that's a fantastic story. Thank you so very much for sharing, and with this. Looking forward to hearing more from you. Officer Mark Rodriguez, what made you decide to become a police officer?
Good morning, everyone. Well, what made me become a police officer is that the neighborhood that I grew up in, 90% of the kids, their parents, if not both of them, were police officers. My mother also worked on the job for 25 years, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to continue to be able to raise my family, because I saw how everybody else's family was being raised, and be able to protect them and do the things that I need to do to make sure that everyone's safe.
Wow, that's impressive. Thank you. Officer Stephanie Arroyo.
So,
Is she up?
I think that would be,
Yes.
Is she with
hello.
us?
So Jerry, I'm sorry. Officer Arroyo has been replaced by Officer Baskerville for this
Okay,
area.
Officer Baskerville. Please forgive me for that. Officer Baskerville, can you address what made you decide to become a police officer?
Yes, how are you? Hello, everyone. So there was no real reason for why I became a police officer. I had no experience, no influence from anyone in my family, no one in my neighborhood. It was just an idea. Now, I went to school for criminal justice, so I majored in criminal justice for my undergrad and for my master's program. So I knew I wanted to deal with law. I just didn't know that I would be a police officer. So it all just fell in place. I took the test, I passed the test, I continued to go through the process, and here I am.
And here you are. Thank you so very much for all that you do for this great city we live in. Officer Dakari Jackson, your reason?
Good morning, everyone. So prior to coming on the job, I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois in the finance department. And came into work one Monday morning, and the young guy that I was training, Alex, had just come back from Oakland, California, taking the test to be the police in Oakland. And he was going in like 2 weeks to take the test to become for Chicago. And he kept asking me throughout the day, come on, Kari, you know, come take the test with me. And I kept, no, I'm not going to do it. I enjoyed my job in, you know, somewhat corporate America, wearing nice slacks and shirts and dress shoes and things like that. And I didn't want to be the police. And throughout the week, he just kept ribbing me. And we actually went on lunch one day over to Harold Washington College, and we signed up together. We ended up getting the same test date. We set, it was crazy. We ended up sitting like 2 seats from each other at the test site. I passed, he failed. I'm not going to say failed. He didn't test as high as I did. And he ended up not getting on the job. Well, he did eventually. So I got on the job, and he eventually got on about 6 years later. And a funny story, it's not really funny, but I didn't even know he had gotten on the job. And so it was a situation one night, I fell victim to gun violence, right? And while I'm laying on my back after I gotten shot, I hear a voice come over me saying, Kari, are you okay? Wake up. And I'm wondering, who knows it's me? And when I look up, it's Alex. He was the first officer on the scene. And I didn't even know he had gotten on the job. It was so crazy. But yeah, that's my story. So had it not been for Alex ribbing me for a whole week to take the test, I'd probably still be at Blue Cross. But here I am 20 years later.
Wow, that's an impressive, impactful story. And thank you so very much for sharing. We're looking forward to talking more and learning more about you and the other officers. And finally, Officer Nicole Bryson, your why, your reason you decided to become a police officer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Excuse me, I'm a little congested today. Getting over a cold. A couple reasons for me. I had like different entities of people, because during the 90s, there was like mass hiring for CPD and county. So everyone was like taking these exams and that. And I was coming out of undergrad, kind of working part-time, not really knowing what direction I was going to go in. So I had like 2 or 3 different people. Let's take the test. Come on, take the test. Go take the test. I stayed out late the night before because I didn't want to take it. And my mom forced me to go. I went in there. I scored like a 98, something like that. And once I got the score back, I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Maybe I'll see where this goes. I'll continue the process. So I went through the process. It took me about 3.5 years. I didn't think they would hire me because it took so long. By the time they got to me, I had a totally different job with Cook County Sheriff Department. And then at that point, I'm like, well, do I stay here? Do I go to Chicago? What do I do? So I talked to a few more mentors, and they kind of pushed me in the CPD direction. because I wanted to go back to school, get more education, and do more things. And CPD afforded me that opportunity to do so. So I said, okay, I'll go 5-year plan. I'll stay for 5 years. I'll get some more education and I'll move on. But I got to the CPD. I started out in the Inglewood District 7, and I loved it. We had a great family of officers. We worked together, and the camaraderie was just so great. And we had good supervisors. I mean, it was just a great experience for me. So I look up, it's 10 years later, and I look up, it's 15 years, and I just stayed on. And I don't regret coming to CPD at all. Not ever imagining myself being a police, but it's been a great experience. So.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all the officers for opening up and sharing your thoughts and your why as to the reason you decided to become police officers. And I love each and every unique response for the simple fact that you saw it as an opportunity, you saw it as a career, and you saw it as a way of taking care of your family. And from what I heard, none of you factored in, the dangers involved as being a Chicago police officer in the third largest city. It was all, on an opportunity that was presented to you, and you did not shy away from it. You didn't run away from it, and that's very commendable for all of you to take on this role and take on this responsibility. So we thank you. Let's go to our scholars here, and I want to ask each scholar if you've considered becoming a police officer. I think we kind of touched on it last year in our first ever brunch. So I want to start with Kamaya and ask you, have you considered becoming a Chicago police officer?
Yes, I have. I have considered becoming an FBI agent, and I've actually met one before. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. And I did write down in my notes that you want to become an FBI agent, and that's wow. And you're in 7th grade, correct?
Yes.
Wow. That's very deep thinking for sure. Shalom, have you considered becoming a Chicago police officer?
In all honesty, no, I have not considered becoming a police officer. I guess I've always, like, when I think of like what I want to become when I grow up, I've always like thought of a way that I could help others, but it's been more like in the business aspect instead of like the being on the field and on the floor. So yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Cordell, any thoughts?
Honestly, I haven't thought about becoming a police officer, but the reasoning behind that is because like 90% of the police encounters that I had weren't really the best ones. Like, even started from an early age, like I just knew that policing was something that I didn't want to do because I thought that they all were really bad people. But, as I got older, I've learned that they're not all bad people, but at the same token, with everything that's going on, you just have to be, aware of your surroundings and just, careful with the police that you encounter because you never know what their intentions might be.
Thank you. Micah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought of becoming a police officer because I just thought it was cool, helping people out, but I don't know. Because like my mom used to watch Law and Order a lot, so I thought that's how police officers work. They just run and get a bad guy. I definitely thought of becoming a police officer.
So we'll move on to our second question, but before that, I do want to say regarding the police officers that are joined here with us. Again, I appreciate it. I'm sure the scholars do, and so does Jenny. And one reason I believe is the fact that you're showing a human side of police officers. And as a couple of the scholars, shared, police officers come across in a different perspective to the community. But with this forum that we've set up, it shows, we're all human. and that you are human and have families and have feelings as well. So I think that shows a lot and says volumes to what we're doing here and what's going on. Our second question addressed to the police officers first here is, tell us about your community while you were growing up. We can start with Ebony Braithwaite.
Sorry, I'm trying to put my video. So what's your question? The community that I grew up in growing up?
Yeah.
So I actually grew up on the west side in the North Lawndale community, born and raised, west side to the, to the heart. My community, so the block that I grew up on, it was a family-oriented block. Everyone knew each other on the block. And that's what I really enjoyed about growing up over in that area, was that everyone knew each other. We knew to respect our elders. So yeah, that was my community. I grew up in the North Lawndale area.
Awesome. Mark Rodriguez, Officer Mark Rodriguez, what was your neighborhood like when growing up?
My neighborhood, I grew up in the Peel Hill area, and my neighborhood was doctors, lawyers, police officers, fire department. We had a mixture of everybody up in the neighborhood. So my neighborhood was actually really quiet.
Okay, okay. Officer Baskerville?
Hi, yes. So I grew up in the Inglewood neighborhood, lived there for about 11 years until I completed college. Then that's when I moved. And it was very family-based, well-respected. We had our times, but I never had a negative interaction with police during that time frame. So it was very interesting.
Okay. Officer Dakari Jackson, what was your neighborhood community like growing up?
Well, I grew up in several neighborhoods. It's what they call the hundreds. I grew up on called Maple Park on 116th and Laughlin. I was a young grammar school kid then, but it was fantastic. My house was the hangout house growing up. Everybody came to my house. Great neighbors, great friends who I still have close contact and ties with today. Mm-hmm. Then we moved to the south suburbs, to South Holland, where I stayed until I was 25, till I moved out. And that was just as good. It gave me a chance to be around a mixture of people as far as races. Went to high school there, junior high school and high school there, and it was fantastic. I didn't have any issues growing up, but growing up, I never liked the police. I never knew why, because they never bothered me. I think it was just the cool thing to do was just not like the police, but I had no reason not to. It was just crazy. But no, so that was my neighborhood. I didn't have any issues growing up.
Okay. All right. That's good and interesting that you share that. Officer Nicole Bryson.
Excuse me. Hi again. I grew up in the Beverly neighborhood, and I lived on a block that was very tight and close knit. Everyone knew each other. If you did something, your parents would know before you got home, because everyone had everyone's phone number. We played a lot on the block, just a close knit, tight situation. Only time I ever remember coming in contact with the police was we had some bicycles stolen from our garage one time. Other than that, it was a very, very good community. Unlike what we have now, people don't even know their neighbors these days. So it was totally different.
If I can ask, where in the Beverly area?
I won't give you the exact address, but I lived on Claremont. I'll just tell you that. We can talk later, Jerry.
Yeah. I grew up around the 95th and Ashland area.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And Officer Dilbert Howell, what was your community like?
My community was, I grew up on 86 and Carpenter, Auburn Gresham community. My neighborhood was cool. We had, it was violence, but it was more organized violence. I had a lot of encounters with the police. As on the next block, they, was, I guess you would consider a drug block. And then across 87th Street was a different faction of a gang. And with that, you tend to have a lot of encounters with the police, with that going on both sides of you. But we still also had block parties. Neighbors knew each other. It was a good situation for what it was worth.
No, again, I'm familiar with the area as well, so I certainly know how the community is over there. But thank you all for sharing, your upbringing, where it all started. I'd like to.
Hey, excuse me, hey Jared.
Yeah.
Officer, you keep missing out on Officer Elise Buford on the questions.
Okay, I thought she was just tuning in, but she's a part of the panel discussion as well.
No, she isn't. We have 6 officers, 2 from 1, 2, and 3. So they were already pre-selected.
4, 5, 6. Yeah, I got six officers here, but Elise Buford is just she's just tuning in.
Yes.
Okay, so she doesn't need to be addressed with the questions, correct?
No, sir.
But maybe she could answer just this one, because I think she has a story or something, right? It sounds like.
Okay, well, Officer Buford, would you like to share what your community upbringing was like?
I grew up in Hyde Park, and it was amazing. I had fun. We always, very close-knit neighborhood, very big. We had a large range of there's a lot of miles that we were able to venture off to. So I grew up on 55th and Cornell, but a lot of my friends were as far as 47th and Drexel or Ingleside. So we would walk everywhere. We had a lot of fun. We would walk up to the lakefront. So I had a really, really good childhood experience, very close-knit, just like Officer Bryson mentioned before. The only time I had an encounter with police officers was when I got picked up for curfew with a friend. I got picked up for curfew, and at that time, the police would take you to the police station and wait for your parents to pick you up. So they were very nice to me. I just didn't understand why I had to be handcuffed at the time. So I was handcuffed to my friend who was also out. We were both out partying, and we had to be handcuffed. And I was like, I freaked out. And the officer was really nice and explained to us why. He was like, we don't know you. We don't know what you've been doing or whatever. So took us to the police station and allowed us to be released to an older cousin, and was really nice. We were crying like, if my mother finds out we were out partying, we'll be in so much trouble. So they allowed us to be picked up by an older cousin that just picked us up and took us back home. So it was a good experience.
So how old were you when you were? Thank you so very much for sharing. How old were you when you were picked up for curfew?
I was 16. So we were at a party at a hotel, and we were all just partying and everything. And somebody called the police on us, like, there are young people here partying. And they came and got all of us just loaded up in the police cars and everything. And, and like I said, they were very nice to us. And we went to the 3rd district. I was picked up and taken to the 3rd district. Yep.
Well, thank you so very much for sharing, and that'll lead us into our more in-depth discussion as far as bridging the gap in the communities between the Chicago police officers and the people living in the community. And I'm glad you shared that story, Officer Buford, because recently in the news, there was a story where a police officer, not in the Chicagoland area, I don't believe, but it happened where I believe a 9-year-old girl was, I believe, brutally thrown down to the ground and handcuffed and taken into custody from school, I believe, and, because she was disruptive. but the emphasis was placed on the fact that this was a 9-year-old student placed in handcuffs, and the outrage was the fact that the police officers should have been able to handle controlling a 9-year-old girl, yet they put her in handcuffs and took her to jail. Let me start with you. What are your thoughts about that? And is that police procedure to handcuff anyone in custody, regardless of age or race or gender? Officer Buford?
So I mean, I would have to know the circumstances.
Sure.
I can't recall that particular incident. But I've had incidences where I've had to, now, of course, you try to talk. Your first thing is your presence in uniform. You try to talk and try to de-escalate a situation. So there are several different steps that you can take to try to de-escalate a situation so that it does not end in an arrest or, in handcuffing anybody. So, I would just have to know the entire circumstances beyond that. But there have been older kids that I've had to, because you can't de-escalate it, and you have to, for your safety and maybe the safety of others, you have to handcuff. So, you just have to follow your training. You have to be able to use that's why it's important to establish a relationship. I was a school officer for several years, and I established huge relationships and valuable relationships with the kids at the school. So it never would have gotten maybe to that point. So, you have to, it's about building relationships. It's about reverting back to your training and just being respectful of people.
All right. Thank you so very much. We appreciate that. I want to open it up. It's been a year since we've done this, and we've had an incredible year, not only in the Chicagoland area in the United States, but globally with the pandemic. And of course, we were front and center regarding the protests that affected this country, stemming from the George Floyd incident. And I want to start with the scholars first to get their reaction, their response, their feelings on the George Floyd incident that occurred earlier in the summer of 2020. So let's start off with Micah. Micah, what was your reaction to the incident that happened with George Floyd and the police officers in Minnesota? Micah?
Yeah, so most of the time, before I really judge anything, I research it. And the first time I heard it, it was really a bad thing. And then I heard a lot of people were talking about how, he had all of these things that he was doing that wasn't good. But honestly, I feel like that doesn't matter when you're like putting your foot in somebody's neck, which can actually kill somebody. I felt like they could have handled the situation better than doing something that could kill somebody and not listening to them. Honestly, like, I know that they might have
I think we lost. Are you there, Micah?
Yeah, I feel like even though they probably fear for their lives, I feel like that's really not a reason for putting somebody's foot in their neck.
Okay. Very great point. Very great points. Kamaya, your thoughts on the George Floyd incident that happened last year?
So I feel like it gave me a better understanding of people, because the looting was not good. It wasn't a good idea. But at the same time, it's like people, they were saying that they were doing it to like white buildings and stuff like that, like who made that building if they were a different race. But I also seen this video where they burned down a black man's building. So I was confused as to why they did that, because now it seems like they're just burning stuff down just to be burning it down, and I feel like that wasn't right at all. So it actually gave me a better understanding of people and what they choose to do.
Okay, thank you. Cordell, your thoughts on the incident that occurred?
Yeah, I was hearing what Kamai was saying. I was gonna say something different, but I'll touch on that a little later. Like, you know, I was here for everything, the protesting, you know, whatever, dude. Like, we just had to do what we had to do, and you know, to get it done. But when it came down to destroying our own communities and burning down Black-owned businesses and things like that, I was not here for it. It's just like, yeah, you have the right to be mad, you have the right to, you know, do whatever. But if you're gonna do it, not don't harm your own community. It's the place that we have to grow up, the place that we have to live, you know. Just be cognizant of that, and don't, like, it was just really irritating and agitating to see people doing that. But on the other hand, like just the George Floyd situation in general, like, I just felt like they were threatened by him. They could have handled the situation in a different light. And what Michael said, yeah, you know, nobody's perfect. Like, you know, it doesn't matter what his past was. They could have handled the situation differently. And I felt like they did that just because he was Black. And I will forever feel like that, because if he was a white man, a white redneck racist, then I feel like none would happen to him. They would just put him in handcuffs or let him go.
Why do you think that? Why do you feel that if it was a white supremacist or a white racist individual, that they would have just put him in handcuffs and taken him to jail, as opposed to what happened to George Floyd?
Well, not necessarily like a just like a racist, just any white person. I feel like a lot of specifically white police officers are threatened by Black people in general, but specifically Black men. I feel like they're very threatened by us. For what reason? I'm not really sure. Probably the color of our skin, the way we're perceived in the media. I'm not really sure what the reason is, but I just feel like they were threatened by him just because of how he looked.
Shalom, what are you? Can you piggyback and give your feelings, you know, about the perception of police officers in the community based on the George Floyd incident of last year?
I guess so based on like the George Floyd incident, yes, I agree that it was wrong. It shouldn't have to he shouldn't have to have died in order for him to be detained. And I guess what I'm trying to say is more like what Cordell was saying about how the police, that white policemen may have the fear of have the fear of like Black males. And it's also, you have to also take into account like his build. His build was a lot bigger than what's called the white police officer. And that did scare the police officer, and his actions should have not been what they were in order to detain Mr. Floyd. And I'm also going to say that, like I said before, I did not agree with that. It did make me change like the way I saw certain police officers. And like, we have the police officers here, you know, that they're good, but like there's others as well that we don't know like their background. We don't know their upbringing. We don't know why they chose to be a police officer. So I think that's like also just something that I had to learn to take into account after that incident had happened.
Wow. You know, I want to switch over to the police officers regarding this, because it's the insight that you scholars present to us is it's amazing. So I want to hear from the officers regarding their position with all this unfolding. Officer Dakari Jackson, being a Black male and a African-American police officer here in the city of Chicago, what was your feelings, your thoughts when this whole George Floyd incident jumped off?
It was unnerving, just to sit there and watch it take place. I actually couldn't bring myself to watch the entire video. It was unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. Only that officer knows why he did it. I guess the only good thing to come out of it, I don't even know if it's a good thing, but camera phones, man. And fortunately, it was caught on video for the world to see, because had it not been, who knows what would have happened. This guy probably would have never even lost his job. I mean, they could have or would have concocted their own story as to why he died or how he died. And it probably just would have been a different narrative. So fortunately, it was filmed by the young people that were on the street that day. So those are my thoughts about it. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to do that.
Well, I'm gonna press you a little bit because I wanna understand, and I want the scholars to understand as well, why when you said initially it was a little bit unnerving for you to watch the everything unfold. Why was it unnerving for you?
Because I mean, we've probably all seen someone die, but it's all been like in movies, right? Mm-hmm. But to see something like that take place and it's real life, that man sat there and he lost his life struggling to breathe right before your very eyes. That, we've seen people, us officers on the job, and then just citizens, period. We may have witnessed people being shot or, die in various ways, but to see someone actually die at the hands, literally, of another man, is something you'll never forget. Whether you see it again or not, you'll never forget it.
Thank you for sharing that. Officer Dilbert Howell, your reaction, your response.
To the George Floyd incident itself, I mean, it was wrong, flat out, point blank. You don't need to put your knee on somebody's neck to detain them. That's not in the training, and it was just wrong. As far as the subsequent protests, protesting what you believe in is absolutely the right thing to do. Looting and tearing up and destroying your own community in the process it's like a blend of opportunists and protesters. So, the protesting is fine, freedom of speech, to get your point across is great. But tearing up and destroying your own community where you got to live doesn't make any sense. The Floyd incident was out of line. Allowing, others to come into your community and create mayhem when you got to still stay here is something to be thought of, in that situation. A lot of people who were coming into the community were not even from the community, and they were creating mayhem for others who lived in the community and inciting, violence when they go back home to Michigan and other states, other suburbs to go live, and now you gotta, live with a torn up community. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Officer Ebony Braithwaite, I want to ask this question. And people in other professions, they're told that, when you get to work, before you cross that door path, you leave your problems outside because this is your workplace and this is your place of business and where you have to get the job done. So whatever outside problems you have, you need to leave them at the door. My question is, this past year was very challenging for everyone. And as a police officer, as a female African-American police officer in a very challenging city, were you able to, and how were you able to take off that civilian hat and put on that police hat and do your job without passing judgment or reflecting on the real world of what, we were living and going through last year with the George Floyd incident and what you had to do as a police officer. Officer Braithwaite?
So I would say for us here in the 3rd District, we actually have a really strong community support, and they understood that we weren't like those officers that committed, that did that incident, and that was one of the things that I really hated about that incident, was that it kind of made the public look at all officers like, oh, we're all bad, we're all out here to kill people. But no, we actually have some really great officers out here that's actually out here, just trying to make a change, trying to build and foster these positive relationships with the community. And so one of the things that I can say is that here in my district, we actually have a really strong support from the community. And so they will call and check on us. They will, bring us food, tell us, we know you aren't like them, we appreciate the things that you do. So that kind of made that transition a little easier.
Okay, all right. Nicole, Bryson, your reaction, your thoughts, how challenging was it for you?
Excuse me. Sorry guys, I'm congested today. Initially, I was conflicted with the whole incident. When I saw it, I shedded tears just like everyone else. It was unfortunate to watch someone die on TV right in front of you. And I also felt conflicted as a police officer because I know that a lot of protocol wasn't followed during that incident. I saw a lot of things that, in my opinion, were errors. So, and I know that when things like that occur, it will make our job that much more difficult. However, I work in the 1st District. We're downtown. We have the South Loop. We have the New East Side, which is Millennium Park area, and we move over almost into the West Loop. So we have good community support. A lot of our district advisory committee members reached out to us to check on us, ask us how we felt. We were able to vent, talk about it with some of the people in the community, and all of that helped. A lot of support from the community that helped us get through it. And I was able to come home and feel really good about the days that I had that followed, because it was a tough time. And then the unrest portion of it all was very, very devastating to watch, especially how hard some of the aldermen worked to build these communities, to bring in the retail and build up our communities where we would have things that we needed be destroyed. It was very disheartening to see. So just having that support from my family, community, people trying to understand, a police officer's point of view, and giving us or me the benefit of the doubt and not judging me for being a police officer during that particular time, that helped a lot. It was very, very helpful to me.
No, that's good. That's good. I want to address everyone here. This is a very powerful discussion that we're having, a very powerful panel that we have intact here. We want to extend it another 15 minutes if we possibly can, because we're up against the clock. But I want to extend an invitation out to everyone on the panel to stay with us for another 15 minutes or so, if possible, so that we can get some more Q&A going here. If everyone is good for that, just let me know. Just wave or let Jenny know. You guys, everyone's good for another 15 minutes or so?
Yeah,
all right, good. Jerry. Yes, I'll try to, be as brief as I possibly can, concise with my questions, but there's so much here and, very little time, but that's the challenging thing. And that's why we're here, to try to bridge that gap, because Officer Bryson, you shared that, your feelings, and you guys are human. I mean, you're doing a job, but it's a job that's affecting, you know, uh, other humans who see things in a different light. I see it from your perspective as far as police officers are concerned, because you're trying to serve and protect, and you're trying to do your job, and you're trying to serve, your oath, your agreement. But the community is saying, you're not working with us because you're working for the establishment or whatever. So it's a fine line from this incident that we've all experienced. And Officer Bryson, you can start off. How do you see the opportunity to close that gap, to bridge that gap between community and the police?
Well, as Officer Braithwaite mentioned earlier, we have to foster healthy relationships. It all starts with us building those relationships in the community. Mostly, I think all of us are community policing officers that are on the panel. So our role is our first priority is community engagement, and we do so in various ways. And the goal is to build relationships and lasting good relationships, and not just people only deal with the police when they call 911, but for the police to actually get to know us, and we get to know them like, family, so to speak, not just call the police, oh, I'm done with you, and it's over. So if you bridge that gap by getting to know each other up close and personal, some officers don't want to do the work that we do in community policing. They want to just do a report and go home and be done. But officers that are in the role that we're in, we want to get up close and personal with the community, the youth, the seniors, and people, and try to help do whatever we can in the community so that people can see who we are and be a demonstration for what a police officer should be looked at, not as a bad person, but years ago, this was a career that people looked up to police officers. They said, oh, it's a noble profession, and it's a good thing that you're a police officer. That's how it was 50 years ago. But now things have changed, and we're like the dentist. No one likes us, so to speak, if you will. So I think just building that trust, getting the strong relationships, start with the young people. And we also try to do a lot for the seniors. They do respect the police a lot. It's generational with them. During their era, they kind of looked up to law enforcement. So I think if we just build that trust, we'll be okay.
Okay, let me go to one of our scholars. Cordell, you're a sophomore in high school here in the city of Chicago, and you're at a point where you have to make some tough decisions, based on the community, but also based on your perception of the Chicago police. How do you feel, Cordell, is needed to bridge the gap between Chicago police and people in the community, being a young African-American male?
Like every other officer was saying, I feel like, healthy relationships is key to, bridging the gap between it. But also, just like a lot of things, it'll take time to, bridge that gap because of all the injustice that's been going on for so long and so many years. It's going to be hard to try to bridge that gap, but hopefully, as time goes by, we become closer to bridging the gap by, communicating with one another and just building healthy relationships, in general.
Micah, also a young African-American male, do you feel that it's realistic that there can be some sort of dialogue between people in the community, in particular young Black males, and Chicago police?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like, in my opinion, of course, a lot of African Americans now think that police are bad people. Sometimes it's because, the majority thinks it, so they just go along with it. But I don't think that police are bad people. I just feel like everybody needs to cooperate in the same way, and make sure that you're not perceiving somebody in the wrong way. Because most of the time when you perceive somebody in the wrong way, then you act a different way just because you perceive them as that. So I feel like if we understand each other more, you know, and become more calm in specific situations than trying to be defense first, you know, then I feel like we could do good in our community.
Okay. Officer Gilbert Howe, what, with you being on the job and being in the community, have you had any ideas that you say, hey, you know what, if we implement this in the community, in the hood, this possibly could work to help us strengthen our relationship with the people in the community? Officer Gilbert Howe.
So I'm glad you asked that. One of the problems I believe that we need to do to bridge the divide between officers and the community is first we're human beings. We're not robots. We have emotions, we have strengths, we have weaknesses. In any career, in any job, you have people who do their job well, and you have people who do not do their job well. And in any career, it should not be based off the people who don't do their job well, and that placed on everyone in the career or job, right? And so there are a lot of missed opportunities from a department, and not just the department, but from schools. We have to me, an archaic way of looking at things, and only thing that I can do is be a part of the change, and instead of putting my words out there, putting my actions out there. And so I have started a non-for-profit myself, and we're looking to teach kids more vocational things. Just because I'm a police officer, I have a lot of different hats that I wear. And I'm not defined by this uniform. I am a Black man from the community. I've been all over the South Side and West Side. I went to Malcolm X, I went to Carver, I went to St. Ignatius, I went to Mount Carmel. So I have a lot of diversity of backgrounds that I have encountered in my past. And for that, it has only helped me to get in a position of starting a culinary program called Healthy Plates with the Police, which we have been doing for the last 3 years, probably reached over 3,000 kids. But is that ever marketed? No, it's not. So a lot of people don't even know about that. There are a lot of good officers on that note that do a lot of different things that are not marketed. But if I do something bad, that's gonna hit every news station in America. So the way things are marketed has to change as well. And so, yeah, there are a lot of missed opportunities, and a lot of times, you know, you have to put people in place that understand and want to do the type of work that's going to affect change. And a lot of times, because the way our system is designed, it's not based off who's good at something, it's based off who passes a test or other things of that nature. So, yeah.
Wow, I see your your screenshot, your background with the healthy place and the fruits and vegetables. So now there's some clarity and some understanding behind that. And I commend you, and I'm sure the scholars and our board members commend you on your efforts and you know, what you're doing to try to bridge the gap between the communities. I want to get to Officer Mark Rodriguez and get his perspective on ideas or thoughts or ways of bridging the gap between the police and the communities.
One of the things that I think we should do is everybody has an open mind. I mean, the police officer, number one, well, how I police, I should say, I try to treat people like I would want my family to be treated, or for myself to be treated if I was ever stopped by the police. That's the number one thing that I try to do. I give everybody respect, and I just do the things that are, I guess, how I would want my mother to be treated if she was out there on the street, or my son. I have 3 African-American males, sons, and their ages are from 28 to 15. And I would want them, well, hopefully, if they were ever having an encounter with the police, I want them to be respectful, number one, to the police officer. I've trained them that, regardless of what's going on, stay respectful, don't have an attitude, and to come home. If the police officer did something that he wasn't supposed to do, I'll deal with it from there. And that goes whether I was the police or not. So the number one thing is, like I said, is respect on both ends, open-minded on both ends, and just being courteous to one another. You have to be courteous. You have to treat people with respect. And then that way, if respect is given, respect is received. So that's the way I try to police. And I hope that everything goes according to plan. I've been doing this for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think within these last 27 years, I've done a pretty good job.
And I'd say for you to be here talking with us, I believe you've done a fantastic job as well, and we appreciate your work. But you bring to light an incident, and I'd have to address it because it affected a young lady, but it affected the communities, Black and brown communities here in Chicago. And I'd like to get Officer Baskerville's perspective on the incident that occurred with Janae Young, where there was a raid on her home. And we've all seen the footage, the video cam. And, Officer Rodriguez, you talked about being at home, coming home and being safe. She was in her home. There was a botched raid that unfortunately occurred in her place. And we've seen a disturbing video, but we've also witnessed the officers and how they handle that. Officer Baskerville, if you don't mind, please share your thoughts and reflect on what you witnessed from that incident, because it sent a message to the Black and brown community that there's no respect for us. And so it was another black eye, another stain to the Chicago Police Department. Officer Baskerville, what was your response, your reaction, your reflection when you saw that video footage?
Okay, hi, how are you? So from that situation, I don't know what was going on in the other officer's head. I know from my viewpoint, communication would have been key within myself and my partners on scene to treat her or anyone else with respect. And the first thing I would have done was definitely clothe that individual. So with that, communication would have just been key. Respect would have been the number one thing to just address while walking into their home. And just with any job that I'm doing, the first thing I try to do is listen, respect every individual, respect my counterparts, but also make decisions if I don't see something going accordingly to my training, to speak up for individuals if I don't see things going accordingly to our training. So with that, yes, respecting each other, communicating, and doing my job to the best of my ability.
Shalom, as a scholar, as a young African-American, thank you, officer, appreciate that. Shalom, as a young African-American woman, having seen the footage and hearing, what transpired from that, what was your thoughts as a young woman to see that happen?
I have to agree with Miss Baskerville. I feel like communication would have been the step to take, because when a person's in that type of situation, they need to be it's something that you need to talk about. You can't just go ahead and do what they did. So I kind of have to say it's important that we had communication. But then also I do want to answer the question you did give earlier about how we could bridge the gap between officers and us as the community, if I can do so.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. I wanted to say I think it's important that we understand that the community to police officers is kind of like parents to children type of relationship, because when a child loses trust within their parents, it's kind of hard for them to go back to their parent, and they end up just talking within like their siblings or the other children within which the other siblings are like the community. So, and I think it's important that we try as a community first to start with ourselves, because like we know that not all police officers are bad police officers, and I'm thankful for all the police officers that came today. Thank you so much. But I think it's important that we just start with ourselves in order to be able to reach out to the police. Like you have to start small in order to do big, and I think that's kind of like important as a community, what we can do. Just like it kind of also starts with we're all aware that it's kind of like a generational thing as well, but I think it also is like it's important that we as a generation learn to connect with ourselves as a generation, but then also look back to the past and like see what was there that did like what was good about the past that we could make also like good about the future. And it's just like it's a progressive type of thing that really needs to happen, just starting small in order to get big. So yeah, that's kind of
okay. Hey, Shalom, thank you so much. Real quick, because we're gonna have to close up. It's fast, but very informative and great information. So Shalom, if you can, and I like all the scholars to do this, if you can, just ask one of the officers what they would like, how we can start this change, how we can start to build this gap, what you can do to help them build this gap and close this gap in the community.
Well, I guess you did ask the question, but police officers, what do you think we can do? I guess just for I guess because I'm a high schooler and a junior going to college soon. So for my age group, what could we do in order to help you and like help ourselves as well to connect back to you?
If I may, am I okay to speak?
Yes, please.
Doing more platforms like this, just having conversations. We have to heal the hurt. And I think initially when we recognize an issue, we have to address it. So I believe in you talk about it. There's an issue. Let's discuss it. Through the discussion becomes the healing portion, and then we can move forward together. I've worked with all of the officers, mostly all of the officers that are on here, and all of the officers are wonderful. And whenever a bad officer does something wrong, we all look bad. You know, even if we didn't do it, we look bad. And we're like angry, like, you know, we're doing so much work to bridge the gaps and make things positive and change this, change the platform. And then something bad happens and then all of the good stuff that we've done and all of the, you know, community building that we've, you know, kind of established, you know, that kind of goes by the wayside. So I would just encourage you guys all to continue to have these conversations with us, continue to partner with us, and continue to treat us like individuals, because we all are, you know, trying to do our best to bridge the gap. We all have children or nephews. When I look at you guys, I look at my 17-year-old. So I know that it is going to take time, like Officer Howell said, but I do think that it is definitely going to happen, but it's definitely going to happen through conversations like this, partnership building, and, you know, us all, you know, treating each other like humans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kamaya, is there any questions that you have toward any the officers to try to help bridge the gap?
What could I do as a 7th grader? That's one question I have.
Officer Ebony Wait, would you like to answer that?
I didn't get her question all the way. Is it Kamaya? Can you repeat it?
What could I do as a seventh grader?
So some of the things that you can do is just, be open. One of the things that I was always taught when I was younger is do unto others how you would want them to do unto you. Be respectful to your adults, especially with, even if you have, those interactions with police officers, just always remain respectful. Yeah, so just be respectful, be open. Don't let the what's going on in the media affect your opinion on officers because, like we mentioned earlier, there are, really, really, really good officers out here. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. 15 minutes have gone by pretty quick as well. So I want to say thank you to everyone once again for taking time out to be a part of this second Monster Education Foundation Brunch with the Cops, Brunch with the Police. And I want to say thank you to all for participating and being a part of this. And there's a lot more definitely we certainly can address, discuss, and hopefully come up with some solutions and bridging that gap. But at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Sergeant Yolanda Walton to close us out in prayer. Sergeant?
Yes, I am ready. Father God, please allow all of us to take in this moment to receive the word. We can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. Bless our youth, police officers, as they are divided by theory, but forged by the blood of God. Father God, protect the footsteps of our youth, allow them to forge ahead and become our leaders of tomorrow, and stand today with us in unity. Give them the victory over their situations as they are faced with many challenges and uncertainties. Psalms 32:8 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you should go. I will counsel you, give you my loving eyes on you. God, give us a path to walk in his righteousness, in his likeness. We just need to believe in him and trust that he will guide our footsteps. Father God, protect the police officers from the unknown dangers that lie ahead of them. Police officers' days are filled with uncertainties and unknowns as they make quick and life-changing and life-threatening decisions. Help them to be wise and invoke all their training and experiences before they move or speak. When they have the opportunity to investigate a situation, before they take action and engage, please give them patience, not to rush to judgment or anger. Father God, allow us to stand against the devil schemers. For our struggles is not against flesh and blood, but against the rules, against the authorities, against the power of the dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil that lurks ahead. Therefore, give us the strength to put on the full armor of God. So when the day of evil comes, we will be able to stand strong and achieve the will of God. Father God, lastly, we thank you for the many blessings over our youth and police officers. Help them to stay united. Help them to speak the same language, share the same views, walk in the same path. Father God, I pray loudly that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. No plots, no schemas, no ideologies will divide us. Help us stand in unity to love one another despite our own differences. Father God, I thank you for allowing us the opportunity to engage in this critical conversation. Amen. Glory to God.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And with that note, we'd like to close with a song from our scholar, Micah, video of Amazing Grace. Thank
Wonder
you.
if everyone could turn your cameras on as we close, and then we can say bye to each other with smiles. And Tony, if you could share
Bye.
your screen, that'd be great. Oh no, the sound. Tony, can you help us with the sound? I will share the video in the YouTube chat.
Let's have Micah sing it live for us. Micah, you feel up to it?
Is the audio not coming through?
It's not coming through.
Uh,
Oh dear.
let me try this again. How about now?
There we go. Yes.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
All right. Thank you so much. If everyone that is here, if you could turn your camera on and let's take a screenshot to commemorate this. I know there's a couple. I have 2 pages of. There's 25. Oh, you know what? 25. Perfect. I think we all can fit. So I'm gonna count to 3, and everyone smile. Big, your big smile as much as you can. And I know Ashley, you must be at work right now. Ready? All right. Hold on. Let me close my chat. Okay. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's take one more. Take look at your camera as much as you can, and if you can make your face as big as possible, that'd be great. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope everyone just really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope we can continue on in other initiatives working together. And I just thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.